Okay. What, at what point is this? This one? Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, how's everybody doing?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Oh,
You know, which one?
did you send agendas out?
That's right. Yes.
No, I mean, did you send them out?
Get one in the
I
mail.
didn't.
There was no mail today.
I never got
That's why.
email.
That's why.
Is it
Yeah.
not so you rely on your mail and know what you're doing for
Well,
that
yeah.
night?
I've got to,
That's okay.
Gotta read-
Lori mailed
gotta
something and
read,
it
lie
finally
on
showed up
something.
3 weeks later.
Oh, thank you.
That's yours.
What, I need to raise the rates again.
I know, I know.
So they can their money.
Yeah. That whole
Yeah, you
organization
can-
is so
you're
upside
good.
down.
That's true. If I hadn't been paying attention, I'd be like, well, I didn't get the mail.
Yeah.
I'm not going. Maybe that's where Jason would do it. Glad you tried that.
Mhm. Okay, at 7 o'clock, I'll call this board meeting to order. In front of you have an updated agenda. If we can get that approved, we'll move on.
So move.
second,
All in favor? 3.0 FFA National Convention.
So I have 3 documents that I shared with Cindy. and shared with you all. Basically, the blue and yellow one is our itinerary. We would leave on the 30th around 7 AM after bag checks and travel straight to Indianapolis. We'd stop every couple hours for restroom breaks, that type of stuff. I would take, I know it's not on there. Me and my husband would go, so he'd do the meal prep run. We would then get to Indianapolis probably about 9 AM, not 9 AM, 9 PM that night. And then just kind of relax. That next morning, we drive down to Louisville for Churchill Downs, which is the racetrack there in Louisville. When I went as a student, it was one of the huge things that I got to see that I never got to see, that racetrack and the race horses. And then we would then have lunch somewhere. Kids haven't decided that yet. And then we would go to Louisville Sluggers, which is the Louisville Sluggers Museum. So that is where all the MLB baseball bats are made for the World Series. So they'd be able to see that whole process.
You want that?
Yeah, great. It's in my brain, but we do Louisville Slugger Museum, and then that afternoon we'd go to Walmart. We are staying in an Airbnb versus a hotel, so we're able to cook all of our meals and pack all our lunches and do all that to kind of save on cost. And then we would have a Halloween dinner that night, just because it is Indianapolis. We are not going to go trick or treating or anything like that downtown. Once we get in for the night, we're going to stay in for that night, for all night. Next day on November 1st, it's the first day of true conference. We would go to the conference center, do a walking tour of downtown Minneapolis, look at the Capitol, look at their arches, look at that fun stuff, and then go into the Expo Center, which is that other worksheet I had. It's like the 12-page document. It would be smaller. Basically, they would have to go and meet at least 3 career vendors and at least 3 college vendors of the 900 vendors that are possible. And then be able to talk with other members and do that type of stuff. That afternoon is first session in the Lucas Oil Field Stadium, where we're projected right now that looking like there's gonna be 70,000 FFA members there. So that'll be a really cool experience for them, being in that football stadium. That night, we're planning on going back for a game night. And then the next morning, starting pretty early, we'll go to the conference center, go to the Expo Center before second session, and then have lunch packed, dinner packed, and then go to third general session, and then come home and kind of pack and get ready for that next day where we would come home. I have taken kids before to national convention. This is the best way I can see is those 5 days. It's to go there and back, just because Expo takes so long. There's over 900 vendors and it's a huge, food building. And to even get to every single vendor, they have to have at least 2 days of that. The sessions will be about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours of seeing what they can get involved in. Those sessions specifically have stuff that our kids have been involved in previous years, so that they can kind of see what the national level looks like. I'm taking 8 kids, so we would need a van. We would need gas for said van. The chapter would cover all the other costs. So we would just, we're asking for a vehicle, we're asking for permission to go on that trip, and then just gas. That's basically it on this guy.
Did we approve this trip before?
Every year, or not every
Well,
year.
but I
they
mean,
go,
did we already approve it or no?
No,
No.
not
Oh,
for
I
this
thought
year.
we already did. Okay.
No, not for this year.
You approved an Oklahoma trip
Oh,
Yeah.
that I
okay.
took this past spring.
Okay.
This is for a convention, and this has not been approved.
I need to double
10
check.
hours.
You- You can only go 10 hours in a vehicle. So we may need to adjust some of this.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. And that protects us. So transportation laws specifically for schools and those type of things, whether it's a bus or a van or whatever, they can only go 10 hours. You can stage drivers, even though technically they would have 2 drivers in the vehicle, because that second driver's in the vehicle, that can't become the second driver until they have rested for whatever the rules are. So we may have to adjust timeframes just a little bit so that we don't get ourselves in trouble if something would happen.
How far is it? What's driving time?
14 and a half.
14 and a half. So maybe if lunch, we'll have to check to see if the lunch, if you have to stay so long, so
Okay.
one if another person can drive.
Yep,
That's
We're
not-
planning on, I've driven that by myself when I
Yeah.
was at lacrosse, and I
It's,
Yeah.
don't,
it's doable, it's just not
Yeah.
legal.
Yep.
So,
if we needed to stay somewhere for a certain amount of time, we were willing to do that.
We'll check on that and I'll let you know.
That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, let me know, but I mean, budget wise, the kids will pay $80 each. That's cost for the registration, so that if they didn't end up going, we don't lose out on that. Every other cost is fixable.
How many's going?
8.
Eight.
8 plus me and Mr. Clausen.
Any other questions for? her? Okay. We'll roll into hearing of patrons. Do you have any patrons? 5.0 consensus items. Review the consensus items.
I move to approve consensus items.
Got a motion second to approve the consensus items, all in favor? All right, Russell, anything on special education?
No, sir.
Tom, anything on
No, I
governmental
don't.
relations? Mr. Flax, you're up.
Okay, on September 28th, Jim Skelter, consultant for Southwest Regional Planning Service Center, she come out. Actually, I had to arrange that meeting to come out to work with myself mainly, but also Mr. Clausenbutcher, Mr. Kerr, my wife Tanya, on our KLN process for the additional targeted support. I kind of visit with you a little bit about that before, but anyway, just kind of looked at putting all of our data together to make sure we get it in the online platform. Was called the Kansas Star Network. Just kind of make sure everything was good to go there. And Mr. Reinhardt and Susie, actually, I just emailed you that link. Actually, I thought I did that earlier today, and I didn't know if you want to throw that up on for your email up. And there's, I'll just kind of look at the data here, just to review again.
You didn't put the link in the
Exit
email.
being this on identified as additional target support or ATS. Or building, it was our Hispanic.
You didn't put the link in the email. No.
Right now that comes through. But, all right, well, he's getting that up there. When we got identified for this last December, kind of the ground rules, I guess, of this process is an identified school must be involved for a minimum of 2 years, 2 consecutive years working with the Kansas Learning Network. And every other week I attend an online meeting with the Kansas Learning Network, working, they call it office hours, going through this. The leadership team, which I mentioned, Brent Kerr, Colin Clausenbutcher, Tony Finley, Don Flax, and myself. We go through, last spring, we went through a comprehensive needs assessment. We went through what we called a root cause analysis, and we developed a plan to utilize evidence-based practices to try to address the needs. We were identified because our Hispanic scores were too low, which is kind of ironic now, because when Jen, I say ironic, I don't know if it's just a mix up or not, but when she went to the KLN network to get our information, so say I'm working with Nestle High School on this to make sure they're going to have their ducks in a row here. They notified her we were down because of both our Hispanic and our white subgroups. So I really don't know if it's just Hispanics or if it's Hispanic and white. So this document will kind of show you where we're at there with the data that we put together there. Anyway, we must have 95% participation rate in all state assessments, which we are. Most of our kids do take the state assessments. We do have a couple families that they write a letter basically exempting them from state assessments, but we're still thankfully at the 95% participation rate. So we are making that goal. And then what we must do is we must show growth and closing achievement gaps and an ongoing improvement on state assessments for English language arts and math, with progress towards proficiency on the KELPA for our English learners and improved graduation rates. Our graduation rate has never been in question, but our state assessments are. And so what you see up there, I know that's not real, but I'm not real great with putting together a spreadsheet like that. But I do want you to just kind of look at, I put together our 22 assessments and I broke it down, all of our students. Then I have our whites, our demographics for whites, our Hispanics, and our disabilities, students with IEP. All right, so you can kind of see there, and obviously our goal in closing that gap on our root cause analysis that we came up with was moving kids out of level 1. That was our, and that's what I have highlighted there. In our ELA and our math, and the math is on top. You can see in 22, we had 54 total students test. 67% of those students, or 36 of them, was in level 1 in the spring of 2022. In 2023, we had 57 total students in our building, 7, 8, and 10th grade. These are 7th, 8th, and 10th graders. The current year, we had 57, and we improved that rate to, I say, reduce it down to 24 or 42%. And then if you can look at each of the subgroups that we're identified with, our whites went from 60% level 1 down to 38. Our Hispanics went from 82% scoring in level 1 to 50%. And our students with disabilities, all 11 of them, 100%, was in level 1 in 2022, were 4 out of the 7. And actually 7 doesn't make a subgroup for 23, but I went ahead and included it just because I knew they made a subgroup of 22. Even though they did not identify our special ed group as not approved as targeted support. Okay. And then you can see the LA down below. 43% of our students were in level 1 in 22, down to 17% in 23. Our whites went from 33 down to 16. Hispanics went from 73 down to 22. Our students with disabilities were at 91%, and that's down to 57% last spring. Now, this is a minimum of 2 consecutive years, so this year is our prove it year. We made the gains. Now, hopefully we can show that our growth and closing that achievement gap will happen for a second straight year for us to exit this program. I will admit I have missed the last KLM meeting, which was last Wednesday, because I was in a meeting in Salina and I wasn't able to do both at the same time. So I don't know if I missed anything since then. But anyway, feel really good where we're at. Obviously, we're going to need to meet as a building leadership team to go over this data, because I know not all the teams even saw it. She met with, I know Colin was able to be in there for a few minutes. Brent was able to be in there for a few minutes, Dawn. But we've never really got the chance to go through the whole parts of the data there. But and I think Mr. Reinhardt, I believe you put those up on the charts that you have in the room here. Did you not, those numbers for you? I think you did, I believe, already.
Well, all the state assessment information.
Right,
yes,
right.
For all, this is the all numbers.
Yeah. But what's on the bottom 2 sets down here is what he had put in there. So you can kind of see it on a wall chart. We'll talk a little bit about the Fast Bridge stuff there also later on there. But anyway, just a little bit about the KLM, update you on that. September 20th was the official count day. 119 students physically in the building. We will be credited with 120 for FTE, grade 7 through 12, on my building report that went to Susie and Derek, and I'm sure they'll have more of the exact numbers there. So that's where our official numbers, and you get credit for a special education student that's not necessarily in this building, but services that come through us, but that he explains that flow to the money much better than I ever can on how that works for special education. For classification for activities, we're 1A for this year. All activities will be in class 1A. Those activities that divide between Division 1 and Division 2, volleyball, basketball, Scholars Bowl, we're in Division 1, will be Um, So that being an odd year, this is also the football count. Football is done differently than all activities. All activities are done annually. Football is done biannually. And that just takes the 9, 10, 11, and we're still be an 8-man Division I. But just by a handful of kids. I do anticipate, unless there's drastic changes in our enrollment, the next odd year, which would be 25, will probably drop to 8-man Division II. Just because of our really small 8th grade, 14, excuse me, 13 really small freshmen, 12. You know, they'll be the 10, 11 group in that year, 25, and then our 27th graders will be 9th graders then. And so I would envision, you know, there's never a set number on Acacia classification. It's all based on, they start at the top with 6A, they take the largest 32 or 36 schools, depends on which activity they're talking, and the next to 36. And so whenever there's a new, you know, Olathe school or Shawnee Mission School or city school that's built, it's always going to be a 5 or 6A school, which will always just, you know, domino everybody else down. So anyway, that's a little bit about the activities on that. We'll have parent-teacher conferences coming up here at the beginning of November. We pushed back a little bit with that calendar change and moving that day back. I think it's November 2nd. So we'll be starting to prepare for getting conferences set up here. And then also 2 weeks from today, we'll be hosting our annual Scholars Bowl tournament for both junior high and high school. We're always the first tournament of the year. We're kind of the kickoff one. We'll do the junior high. We'll go at 2 o'clock, and then our high school will follow at 4. In the need of 1, maybe 2 more adult workers. If anybody else that Ms. Burbeck has not contacted, that if you are willing or wanting to help, she will, I'm sure, gladly put you to work. Or anybody if you're listening online, just get a hold of me if you would like to volunteer your time for that. But other than that, I don't think I have a whole lot that's not on the agenda that we'll talk about here later on.
Any questions for Mr. Flax? Okay, Mr. Reinhardt.
Tom talked about the principal's building report. That funnels into the SO 66. This is one page of the SO 66. This would be your total head count and total FTE for that head count as of September 20th for the year. So it gives you an idea. So we have 280 total kids that equate to 264 FTE. The difference between those is our preschool kids that we get funding for. They only count as half a kid because they're only in school half a day. So that's that difference. To give you an idea on what that kind of equates to. So this top set, you'll see what our FTE, if you remember, 264.5 is what it was this year. In 2020, it was 277.8, 269 and 21, 261.6 and 22. And then it's a little different here, but the 269.5 is what our average is of the last 3 years. So that's what we get to build our budget off of. And then you start looking at all the weightings, another 149.9 on high enrollment weighting or low enrollment weighting, and then your CTE weighting, your bilingual weightings, and all of that gives you an idea of our total FTE weighting is 499. So we will get base state aid times 499 for our general budget for this year, to give you an idea. Gaga Pit, if you looked at on the playground, is built. I don't think Wes has all of the concrete anchors in, but it is usable. He'll get that finished up tomorrow. I know the kids are already excited. I think they played on it afternoon recess, and I know there's some kids after school out there using it. So I think that was a good investment. In talking to Mrs. Clausenbutcher, making some adjustments to her chicken coop, rabbit hutch, livestock barn that she's building. I went ahead and had Adam Walker pour a pad for it, so we did it right. So while he was out here pouring the pad for that, so he did do some concrete on the north side of the BOE building, so that when they're ready to move the frame out for their chicken coop that they're building in the shop, we will have a good place to put it. Gave you all this information here. This was presented to me at Soup's meeting. This is a way to help with cell phone usage in the school system, specifically for our needs, more 712 than anything. Basically, it locks the cell phone away, so it can't be used during the day. We're very similar to, the safety devices in retail stores, so you can steal stuff based off of a magnet. I'll pass this around so you kind of look at it. Don't push the button because it will lock, and there's no way for us to unlock it. But there are, right now, there's several schools in Kansas that have implemented them, but Deerfield, Minneapolis, which is North Ottawa, Hoxie, and Ellenwood are ones kind of in our area. I know Ellenwood, we know Ellenwood just from league, and I know their superintendent really well. I know Minneapolis' superintendent real well, and Deerfield superintendent real well. They all like what they're seeing out of these. Now, I will tell you, the first conversation we had with 712 staff happened this afternoon, so we're not ready, but I wanted to give you an idea of this and take a look at it and see if it's something that you'd be interested in implementing. $30 a kid, so we're somewhere around $4,000 to implement it. The idea is they last about 4 years. So a kid 9 through 12, they'd use the same pouch for their 4 years of school, and then they get replaced. Most of the schools, if you damage it, tear it up, lose it, you replace it for the $30. So it would be a fee that the kid would have to pay, parent would have to pay to replace it. Essentially, the idea is you walk in the building, you put your phone in the pouch, lock it away, and it's not usable the rest of the day. The magnet is a special magnet. It is a high power magnet. The salesman told a story of a student in a school out of state that had a little bit of ingenuity. Dad was mechanic engineer of some sort, had some high powered magnets in his shop at home. So the kid took one, brought to school, was charging kids $5. I popped to open them, not realizing that the magnet they used to open this is safe with technology. The magnet he didn't have was not. So not only was that magnet, the magnet was getting them open for $5, but was also wiping their phones. So it's a pretty good way as far as the kid gets to keep a hold of the phone. They just don't have access to it from 8 to 3:30. You mount the things on the wall, magnet screws in and off of it. So, Tom goes out 15 minutes before the end of the day, puts the magnets up. As the kid leaves the building, they can unlock their phone and take it. One of the keys to using it is to make sure you turn your phone off before you put it in the pouch, because the salesman also told a story of a young man that didn't turn his off. Then it started ringing. He starts trying to shut it off by touching it, ends up hitting the SOS button and calling 911. And of course, can't do anything about it because it's in the pouch. So it was a little bit of an ordeal. So the idea is you turn your phone off, you put it in there, and now it's not a distraction the rest of the day. Like I said, I think they had a little bit of a conversation about it today. I think there's, go ahead.
Oh, I had a good conversation with the principal at Ellenwood today, just because I knew it preparing to visit with the staff about it for the first time. they actually do not allow the pouch to go home with the kid. I guess maybe as your demonstration, they talked about staying with them, but they had implemented it April 3rd of last year, and they hauled around whole second semester, and they kind of waited for that last month of the school year for their trial run. And they found that, of course, the kids would forget to bring the pouch back to school the next day. And so Ellenwood, talked to Mr. Cook there, they basically have like 3 stations that kids, when they leave, go by the magnets to unlock it, and they actually drop the pouch in a basket. On the front of one side, they have the kid's name written in it on the pouch for Sharpie, and on the back side, it's first hour teacher's name, and that's kind of how their process is instruct the teacher to watch and power the phone down, put it in there, lock it away, and then, they phone's with them all day long with the pouch, so it's not like the personal property is not on them. But then at the end of the day, that's kind of how Ellenwood handles it. They had issues. They have issues. I mean, like I said, talk about the issues of them forgetting their pouch. Now they got a lot of kids that won't bring their phones into the building. And he said, on one hand, he said him and the staff has had conversations about it. They're not seeing the phones. Whether it's they leave them in their vehicle or they got them stuffed in their bag and just not use them, because obviously if you see the cell phone anytime during the day, it's whatever their first offense, second offense and stuff like that is, they said they're not seeing them. So I guess it at least deters that. But like I know we brought up today in our staff discussion, if the phone is on, so is the wristwatch. We allow earbuds because of the Chromebooks in our office. The ELA program has lots of audio stuff, and so we constantly have our kids bringing earphones and stuff like that. So there are, I guess, pros and cons, but I don't think he, I'm obviously just talking from the principal standpoint, he wasn't real keen about starting the process because of all of the backlash, and there will be some. The number of parents, the vocal parents, the ones that want to be able to contact their kid or be able to get a text to their kid at some point during the day, and they won't have that. So those are things that they've heard. I know today when we talked about it, and I didn't have all the staff there, because not all of them were able to be there. Sure, they'd like to not have the headache of a cell phone at all, but it's worth $4,500. Especially now, like I say, we would need to develop some practices and policies, I guess, for better term on how, what do you do with a kid that doesn't bring one to you first hour? Is that an infraction, or do we just, okay, if we see the phone, we'll just handle the kid when we see the phone, then if it comes out? I don't know. Those are some questions. We probably have more questions. We have answers today that come up with. So staff that's behind me here that is part of this conversation. Is there?
Yeah.
We had a good discussion. I mean, I think it's something to investigate and look into. But I don't know. And I think this is something we need to communicate with our patrons about, our parents.
I actually came across this last week or the week before or something, this and one other thing. And I would encourage you guys to go to this website and read some of the information, because it has a lot of information, like arguments for, arguments against, that kind of thing. One of the things that I'd never thought of, and I hope it's nothing we ever have to worry about, but it talked about on there, like whenever there was an emergency situation at a school, like from an emergency responder standpoint, like what a problem cell phones are becoming, and it's like hindering them doing their job, because as soon as that happens, these kids are on their phones and it's getting in the way of them doing their jobs. And so I think there's a lot of arguments that you could make, even for the parents that might be against it or whatever, but I mean, we would have a lot of reasons for doing this, and part of it would be to keep your kids safe. So I would suggest that you guys look at the website. There's a lot of information, statistics, stuff like that on there.
So I was very impressed with some of the things the salesman said. Yeah, it's gonna be a headache and there's gonna be some fights. I had a good conversation with the superintendent in Minneapolis and back and forth email with the superintendent in Ellenwood about it. And they said, the first couple of weeks were a little tough, but after that, everybody kind of understood this is what we're doing, and they started seeing some of the positives. One of the things the high school principal at Deerfield mentioned was all of a sudden the kids are being kids because they're having conversations. They're not on their phones. The
And
first
it
thing,
talks a lot
yeah.
about that on the website.
so, and like I said, we're not ready to do this yet because it doesn't work unless the staff is on board. So we need to continue that conversation, but it's also one of those things, if we don't feel a $4,000, $3,500 investment is worth this, then it's not worth having a conversation with the staff either. So I didn't know, you guys think about it a little bit, we'll do a little bit more work and kind of go at it from there, but it's the first thing I've seen that solve that problem of, do I let them on their phone? Do I not let them on the phone? Do I fight with them over the phone? Because now there's no fight because there's no phone. And it's not a fight of, do you have the phone or not? It's in your pouch. It's there. You know where it's at. It's in your possession. We don't have to fight with the back and forth anymore. So to me, it solves some problems. It's just whether or not that type of investment is worth it.
And it talks to you about like the academic gains, like statistics that show academic gains for schools that implemented it too.
Well, 68% is what they have on their phone here. I mean, that's pretty impressive. If you can get and set 84% more engagement, that's like a big,
We're not worried about our phone anymore.
yeah.
How fast can I get through this lesson so I can get my phone out? Because that's not an option anymore. So I can see that. And I could see the first couple of weeks being really rough. But I think as it settles in, I think it could definitely be a positive. But, think about that. And maybe next month we come with a little bit more information and kind of a procedure as far as how to handle it at the high school. And we can kind of move forward with there. The other thing you have in front of you is a letter from the Commissioner of Education. Tom talked about state assessments a little bit. This is our recognition for our performance on state assessments and then an assessment all the way around. We received 4 awards, star awards this year. If you remember, I think the very first time we came out, we put them on the wall. There was 3 of them up there. We've got 4 this year. So the academic prepared for post-secondary basically says above the state average, a percent of students scoring in levels 3 and 4 in the state assessment. Getting a copper means we scored 1 standard deviation above the state average. The state average this last year was 49.9%. So we are above the state average on students scoring in levels 3 and 4. And of course, that's where we want a good portion of our kids. We won't ever see all of our kids in level 3 and 4. But we want a good portion of our kids scoring in 3 and 4, and we're above 50% of our kids doing so. Graduation rate, to get the gold, you have to have a 95+% graduation rate. To get the silver and the post-secondary success rate, we have to be performing above predicted post-secondary effectiveness rate. Basically, this is the percentage of students that go on and receive a post-secondary certificate or participate at the post-secondary level at least for 1 year, and then re-enroll for their second year. Traditional college path, we are performing 60 to 69% higher than what was predicted. So that's good. And then the Commissioner's Award is a district predicted post-secondary effectiveness rate factors in the degree to which identified risk factors known to depress effectiveness rates such as poverty, chronic absenteeism, and student mobility are presented in a district student population. Students that outperform the predictive rate by 0.4 to 0.99. So almost from about half of a standard deviation to a full standard deviation above what is predicted for us to perform. So some good recognition for our staff for the work they've done and our students for the work they've done to improve. Looks good. You'll see we've added dots. And I did not do a good job of explaining to Tom how to do the dots because I changed it up a little bit. Our goal is all of our dots in the spring benchmark are green. That would mean they've all grown green or blue. Everybody's grown. And so looking at K6, as we look across here, so kindergarten's all the way down here, and then this would be this year's 6th grade class down here. What we did was we looked at not only the kid's score, where that score fell in level 1, 2, 3, and 4, but we also looked at that score from this fall compared to their score in the spring. Now, there's a couple caveats to that. Kindergarten and 1st grade do early reading and early math. Starting in 2nd grade, they do A math and A reading. Okay, so it's hard to compare those two scores as far as whether they grew or not. So what I did between 1st grade and 2nd grade was, did you fall in the same level or not? So because it's a little bit hard to describe. So K6 population overall, as we look at math, red dots mean the kids dropped in score from their spring to their fall. So over the summer, we talked about summer slide. 48% of our kids dropped in their math score over the summer. 48% of our kids dropped in their reading score over summer. In math, the yellow dot represents a score of a same score. So I consider the same score 1 point below or 1 point above where they scored in the spring. So 28% of our kids scored roughly the same in math, and 18% scored roughly the same in reading compared to their spring score. The green is that they grew, so grew more than 1 point over the summer. We talked about summer slide and how that can really affect our kids, but we saw 3% of our kids grow in math and 18% grow in our reading. As I was looking at these, I started seeing some pockets of kids that, what's going on here? So my first response was to email Lori, and I go, were these kids in the library this summer? And almost across the board, she's going, yeah, I remember that kid, I remember that kid, I remember that kid. So the impact of learning over the summer is pretty big. And we can kind of see some of that in our summer school data too, which I'll share in just a second. But again, 14 grew in math, 9% or 3% grew in math, 18% grew in reading. And then the blue dot represents students that not only grew, but they grew from a level 1 to a level 2, or level 2 to a level 3, a level 3 to a level 4. So they didn't just grow 1 or 2 points. They grew exponentially to the next level. And we had 14% grow plus in math and 9% grow plus in reading. And then the purple dots are brand new kids. These are kids we do not have a spring score from last year because they weren't with us last year. So it gives us a good picture of what's happening. And when we can say our kids that participated in a summer literacy program grew, that gives us some information to go back to parents and say, if you want your kids to be academically successful, school has to happen year round. Now, that doesn't have to be a traditional school system, but if you could get your kids to read, if you get them to go to the library once a week to the events, if you can get them to come to summer school every once in a while, there can be some positive growth there. So as we look at summer school, 53% of the kids that attended our summer school showed no loss or growth in math, and 54% showed no loss or growth in reading. The assumption I would make is the kids that show drop are more than likely kids that probably would have dropped even more if they hadn't had summer school. Because if you remember, we really gear our summer school towards our struggling kids. So anytime they're out of school, they're going to drop even more. And so I'm going to make that assumption. I have no data to necessarily point to that, but I think if we can say over 50% of our kids didn't see a drop or grew that attended summer school on a regular basis, to me, it's a pretty easy assumption to say the kids that did drop more than likely would have dropped even more if they weren't in summer school. So that the impact those things have are pretty outstanding. One concern I have with the data as I look at it is we had 40% below grade level coming into this school year. So beginning of the school year, 40% of our K-6 students scored below grade level in reading and 37% scored below grade level in math. One concern I have about that is if I compare that to last spring, 35% were below grade level in reading, 32% were below grade level in math last spring. So the concern would be with retention. Why aren't we retaining information from year to year? So our focus on that rigor, relevance, and student engagement should help with that improvement of depth of understanding and retention. So the work that our teachers are doing this year, have done the last couple of years on building strong, rigorous, relevant, student engaging lessons should help us with that retention. And hopefully over the next couple of years, we will see those numbers continue to drop as we come into the spring. You know, it'll be hard to come into the school year and have 100% of our kids on grade level. I don't think that's anything we could ever accomplish. But the hope would be that that number gets smaller and smaller that are below grade level to start the school year. And we keep working on that. But some information on data so far that we've worked on. The teachers have been working on, especially the kids that dropped, how many points they dropped, so we can kind of collect that data a little bit too, to give us a little better idea on what we're losing over the summer. And like I said, ultimately the goal come spring is every dot that you see is green or blue, because that shows every kid has grown over the course of the school year. And we see some good solid blue colors, even if they're in level 1 and grow to level 2, you know, that becomes a blue dot. That kid has moved a lot over the course of the school year, and that's what our ultimate goal is, to get them moving and not just focused on our level 1 and level 2, but we want to see growth in our level 3s and level 4s also. So there's some data. Speaking of the training that we're getting, you know, we didn't go this last summer because I didn't feel budget was there, but would like permission to take up to 5 staff members to the Model Schools Conference again. That is who is providing our training that we've been doing the last couple of years with the Patterson Family Grant that we got to cover professional development. That leaves money in the professional development pot to do that. If you'll give me a nod to do that, I'll start putting things in place so we can get things the cheapest as we can as far as flights and motel rooms and stuff. But that is June 22nd through the 27th in Orlando. And I'm projecting somewhere between $300 and $3,500 per staff member to attend that. And that would include meals and transportation and motel rooms and all that. If everybody's kind of okay with that, I will work on putting that together. Right. 2 more things. We talked about, you know, what's going on in special ed, what's going on with the government. If you're interested, right now, a special committee on education is meeting. They met 2 days last week. They met today and they'll meet tomorrow. Today, they spent a lot of time on special education. But if you go to the KS legislature YouTube page, you can watch those meetings. There is some good discussion. There are some things I bang my head against the desk as I try to listen. I got about halfway through the meeting today as I was doing multiple different things. But, you know, that can kind of give you an idea of what's going on in Topeka. Some of the conversations being had about funding, what counts as special ed, what some of the issues legislatures have compared to some of the issues school districts have. There is supposed to be a subcommittee specifically on special ed. The gal there, Christy Williams, is supposed to get that started. I think there's a lot of conspiracy theories of why she's not. But so far, the actual special ed subcommittee has not met. I think they're trying to do it all within the overall special committee on education. But that is a good place to get some more information. And then the last thing I have is daycare. We talked a little bit. We currently had some conversations with the hospital, the city, the county. Hospital feels their current staff can cover more kids if space was available. So their biggest problem is space. They've got good staff and they've got staff that can handle more kids. We, Aaron Keene and I went and looked at the dance studio. They're interested in selling it. They're wanting $75,000 for that property, which for current property costs, I don't think it's out of touch for a 50 by 50 building, brick faced, and then the lot itself that it sits on. I estimate we'll probably need, the 75,000 and then probably at least another 50,000, if not another $75,000 in remodel and doing some things to that building to make it feasible for a number of kids. Concern is, I think that facility would fit the hospital and the school's needs, maybe a couple other kids, but would not fit the overall needs of the community. The thought would be if that becomes a reality, then possibly the property to the south of the dance studio could be purchased and addition could be made to make it a 90 kid facility. My estimate, if you had 90 spots, you'd meet all the needs for daycare in this county. So that kind of gives you some ideas there. I've got the Ness County Economic Development Foundation back up and running. One of the things Aaron and I talked about is neither one of us want to be in the daycare business. So looking at other entities that could possibly take that as a lead and then turn it over to his staff, his current staff. He feels he's got a couple staff members that could definitely take it and run with it if they had facilities and funding to do so. But within the Ness County Economic Development Foundation, I've applied for $200,000 in grants. Roughly $100,000 of that would be to employ a community-wide grant writer and someone to run the foundation. And the idea was that person would be able to bring in more funds to our community in general. And then I applied for another $100,000 in funding that would help actually purchase, buy, build a daycare center. So that kind of gives you an idea where we're at there. I would say we are still probably 3 to 6 months out before anything for real happens. Because I think you're going to have to, if the dance studio is a real possibility, and to my knowledge is probably only current facility without building something brand new available in the community, you're going to need $150,000 to get it in the shape that it needs to be to make it a daycare center.
Any questions for Mr. Reinhardt? Okay, moving on. 6.31 Board Subcommittee. Anything to report? Okay, we'll move on to 7.1 Bond issue discussion.
So you have a couple different pieces of information. Susan went through and kind of put together a list of repairs and things that we've done over the last 5 years. Now, this goes through the end of last fiscal year. So anything that we have done since July 1 is not on this list. So you don't have the repairs to the elementary boiler. You do not have the repairs to the high school boiler. You do not have the fact that between you approving the repair to the elementary school boiler and us spending almost $8,000 to repair the air conditioner at the elementary school on there also. But in general, you can see over the last 5 years, there's roughly $630,000 in things that we spent money on, which can kind of give you an idea of why it's hard for us to build any kind of capital outlay. We are spending a bunch of money to keep things up and running and banding together. Out of that 634, there's just over $100,000 that has been spent on HVAC Band-Aids and repairs over those 5 years. And again, that 100,000 doesn't include the 36 and the 16 and the 7 that have been spent this year. So, over another 50,000 have been spent just in the first couple months of this fiscal year. So that kind of gives you an idea there. The other thing that I shared with you is this is Lacrosse's bond issue, what they're working on, to give you kind of an idea of what they've put together and what they're spending money on. Now, I would say that Lacrosse is kind of probably where we were in the 80s. Their elementary school was condemned many, many years ago, and it's finally gotten to the point where it is very much like the old elementary school building that was replaced in the 80s was here. So they're spending, they're looking at spending just over $10 million, almost $11 million, basically to turn their high school campus into a pre-K 12 campus with an addition onto the north side of that building. They'll also within that do some upgrades to HVAC and some other things within the current existing building, but that kind of gives you an idea there. The other thing that I kind of put together was I went through the list and I really broke it down to where are some large expenses that we really need to look at and put some money into, so we stop nickel and diming ourselves with Band-Aids. So within the preschool building, looking at HVAC, bathroom setups, custodial closet, roof repair, and water heater gives you about $70,000 in things that we've done in the preschool. Elementary building, a new roof, a HVAC, secure entrances, sewer issues, sidewalk repairs, the fire alarm system, elementary school gym acoustics, intercom system, hallway lighting, the windows and doors, which are a big issue, water softener, emergency lighting in the bathrooms, playground work, and then the electrical panel that we've talked about gives you an idea there. And then the high school, the finishing off the roof, the gym, auditorium, library that we had to do with the last repair. And that's the other thing within this, the roof repair to the high school that is not included in that $600,000. So you throw that in there and you're over $1 million in things that you spent over the last 5 years.
I got a question on that. I seen over here though. Why do we have the golf or the track repair in on this?
That's just all your capital, your
Okay.
capital expenses.
Okay,
And again,
And there might be a few in there that don't belong, but
okay.
small budget items. but-
she threw it together really fast for me. The other thing to consider is you've spent that money on the track, and if
Right.
we don't finish that repair, you've thrown that money away. And that's kind of in here is, between roofs and auditorium needing updated, HVAC in the high school, doors and windows, locker rooms, secure entrances, continue doing the sewer mains, lighting, sidewalk repair, finish outdoor learning space, the sidewalk out to the leg building, emergency lighting in bathrooms, supplemental heat in north classrooms, handicap seating in the gym, water softeners, the wall buckling issue that we pointed out when we did the tour, access to storage for Lynn, softball field lights, football field lights, dust collector and wood shop, leveling layer, and structural spray for the track. And that's kind of why, the track repairs on there, that $175,000 amount becomes $300,000 if we don't do something relatively soon with that. Now, I will say this, that $8.4 million amount that I've come up with, I believe is high. I believe once you actually come in and get contractors and those type of things, once you adjust the size on some of this, you probably knock $1 million off of that. So you're probably closer to 7.5 than you are to 8.5. Locker rooms, at the high school, that would just be 2. And then some remodeling work to what's there for visitors and junior high. I calculated that off of probably a much larger square footage than what an architect would actually come in and do for us. And I also calculated it at the very high end of what commercial construction is costing us, it would cost right now. So, realistically, that may be $1 million project versus a $1.5 million project. My concern is a couple different things. If we don't start taking a serious look at some of these bigger projects, it is going to continue to nickel and dime us. We will never be able to build up a capital outlay fund to make a major purchase on our own. That is a concern I have. The other concern is planning for the future and being prepared for the future. When I make the comment that we need this many classrooms, if we are the sole provider of education in this county, that's not for 50 kids in a class. Those classroom numbers are for 30 kids in a class in a grade level. When we hit 25, we're splitting classrooms most of the time. So if you look at current numbers, K-12 in the county, most of your grade levels are going to need 2 classrooms. So when I start talking about, secure entrances, opens up a couple classrooms at the elementary school, that leaves us really 1 classroom short of being able to do 2 classrooms per grade level in the future. Building a secure entrance at the high school opens up 2 classrooms at the high school level, and that probably puts that building at a place where it has the space it needs looking into the future. And again, you look at the secure entrance costs in both those buildings. I'm not 100% for sure what an architect's going to come in. More than likely, they're going to come in and they're going to say, you don't need that many square feet, so your cost is going to reduce in that too. My goal is, I would much rather tell you it's going to be this and it be this than it tell you it's going to be this and it really ends up being this. I don't know. What else do you need? What direction do you want to go? If this is something we're just not interested in doing, then there's a lot of other things to put our time and energy in. There's a lot of different things that we could be doing to really focus in on what is the next thing we have to do and figuring out how to pay for that one thing at a time. Is there things on this list that we just not interested in doing, don't want to do, can't do?
Well, I think it's all justified. You just got to draw that magic line somewhere. Something's got to be done. I mean, you're spending over 100,000. If this is a 5-year project, 5-year expenses, and we're spending 634,000, that's over 100,000 a year. Eventually, these are all going to catch up to us at the same time. So something's got to be done. I don't know what it is. Win that lottery come Wednesday, I guess. I don't know.
One question just with this list. I certainly wouldn't want to go any higher than this, but are there certain things we're doing that would cripple us in the future? Like the locker rooms you talked about in a more expanded program with all sorts of rooms around the outside. If we just do 2 locker rooms, is that going to mess us up?
I think if you want to add 2 more in the future, a weight room on the corner or something like that, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
you brought up other things like that.
I don't think so. I think as you talk with architects and engineers, you design and build in a way for future expansion. And I think most of your architects and engineers that work in schools understand that. So you would build it in a way to make it easy to add on in the future. And do those types of things.
So with this list, you're thinking you've got what? 8 million roughly, and you're thinking more close, 8.5, close to 7. But La Crosse's, they're building a whole new elementary and they're at 10.9. Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Because they're building a whole new, looks like, I don't know,
And say, I
dozen
don't,
classrooms and a big gymnasium.
does it say what their actual square footage is?
It just seems like we're trying to update stuff.
Mhm.
We're 3/4 of the cost and they're adding a whole big addition.
And say they're looking at an $11 million bond. I know the vast majority of that is going to be in that new construction. I also know that they ended up getting, I think, $450,000 in that grant money for HVAC for this building. So I don't know if that covers all of the HVAC in their existing building that they're looking at doing, because I know that's one of the things that's part of this is to update the HVAC in their existing facility. I am guessing off of what the prices we got to do when we're looking at that 450,000 isn't probably doing all of their work, so part of that's going to be in the bond issue. You know, I don't know if they're doing new doors and windows all the way around, because we've looked at prices for that stuff and how expensive that is. What I calculated new commercial type construction was $280 a square foot. I would hope in this area, it is lower than that. Because that, I mean, that's a nationwide average, and square footage for commercial in California and New York is going to be a whole lot more than it is here. You know, so, you know, maybe that addition for locker rooms is closer to $600,000 or $700,000 versus $1.5 million. But I mean, that's to get those numbers, you've got to get an architect involved. You've got, I mean, to get a better idea of what it's actually going to cost. That next step is getting that project manager and architect and those type of things, so they can give you real numbers.
So are they looking at funding from two sources with this? Like,
Yeah,
there's-
so-
there's two questions there, and one of them is the city sales tax.
So basically, the first question is the bond issue itself.
Right.
The second question would allow them to lower the mill rate for the cost of that bond by applying is it 1 cent sales tax?
1%.
1% sales tax on top of that. So that is something that's relatively new. Just over the last couple of years, school districts have some opportunity in. So we could propose to the city, to the county, a sales tax in lieu of a mill rate increase for any of the work we're doing.
Have any schools had success with some things like that?
I believe Hayes did in this area. There's more and more of them that are going after that, and having some luck with it. My understanding from the State Department is you essentially have to get whoever the taxing entity is. So if you're talking just the city of Ness City, the city council would have to say, yes, we approve you putting that on the ballot. If they approve it, then it goes on the ballot. If your community approves it, then you're good to go. My question becomes,
So the city collects it and then they pass it on.
then they pass it on to the school and the school pays off their bond indebtedness. If you do it countywide, that becomes a problem because not all of Ness County is USD 303. So it may be difficult to get that piece accomplished. It would generate more funds, but I don't know how you would work that out. You know, that could be something we have a conversation about with the county commissioners, and legal advice from their lawyer and our lawyer. One thing that would be very interesting is you put both of these questions on, the bond issue fails, but the sales tax passes, do we still collect that sales tax? And it becomes basically more capital money we can use to fix some of the things that need to be fixed. So I mean, that could be an interesting conversation too, is, we are kneecapped at a level of, we can only raise this many mills for capital projects, but if we had a 1% sales tax, it would bring in this much more money until it sunsets. And, that could help fund some of these projects over time anyway. And it probably depends on how you write that question for the ballot, whether or not that will hold up.
Well, starting with the little busy thing here, as far as future expenses, trying to forelay that to build up a capital outlay, again, get this passed. I think you mentioned before about the press box on some stuff. And I don't even know if we've done anything on it, or we're waiting for it to fall apart, or
Well,
what?
the problem we've got, and that's kind of, it came up when Tom was talking about mini split for HVAC systems. The press box has a mini split system in it. I think if you look through here, we spent, it's probably over $1,000 now in the last couple of years on it to keep it functional. So the structure itself, there's some remodeling, some things that we could probably do in it.
We're not talking about basic big.
No, it would be
Structure
relatively,
problem.
it would be
That's all-
relatively small
that's
type
all
of
I
thing.
was concerned about.
I won't say that everything on this list is all the big issues. There are some issues, but I would say these are all things that if we don't really take a look at, they could come back to bite us. I think of the high school parking lot as a prime example. We spent 60-some thousand here. Well, it's been in the last 5 years because I know it's on the list. I'm doing some major repairs to it. Now it's still in pretty good shape, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to plan on resealing it on a regular basis. Now that shouldn't be a $60,000 expense. I owe the city, a couple of the city workers a thank you card. They patched the holes back here in the driveway, and while it's not perfect, it's a whole lot better than it was. And they did that on their own, so it was very nice of them to do that. So while we could spend a lot of money redoing that drive back there, which at some point in time probably needs to be done, right now it's functional.
I know they have good benefits for the building and for classes. I'm just, as far as getting the overall pricing down, the entrances, secure entrances, I'm wondering about whether we're removing those and possibility of doing them down the road. So that's my thoughts. So.
Safety right now is a big thing, and it could be the thing that gets voters interested in moving forward with something like this. That would be the only concern I would have if you take those off. They could be the one thing that a voter looks at and says, okay, this is helping keep the kids safer. I'm willing to spend money to do that. And outside of that, what I really need is, what do you want next steps to be? Are you ready to get real numbers? Are you ready to put together a committee to have a conversation about, hey, this is what board and staff have kind of narrowed things down to, things that we really need to do if we're going to keep our buildings up and running and in good order. What do we add? What do we take off as a community? Organization, group, committee. I could start putting together an RFP for an architectural firm. We can go through that process. of hiring and securing them, and they can start putting together drawings and real dollar amounts for bond issue.
My opinion is, I think we need to proceed with this, but I'm just curious of how lacrosse handles it come next month.
I
just
think
wanna
you'll
s-
have some sort of an indication of,
Right.
and I know different communities are different,
Right.
but I think if theirs fails miserably, you might as well just drop it and be done with it. If there's passes, then maybe there's hope that one would. And still different communities have different opinions on that kind of thing, but if theirs fails big, I think you know.
Yeah.
that there would be no need to pursue it here.
So can we table this to next month?
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
I
I think that's gonna be a huge indicator if we've got a chance.
No,
Or
and-
it might
and-
even mean that maybe we need to just skim the list down to,
Yeah.
to like the top 10 things we need and try to do it that way.
But you
But
know-
I agree, Jason, maybe we should see kind of what happens over there.
Because if it fails, you know there's gonna be feedback.
Oh,
The
yeah.
reason why
Yeah.
people didn't, and then we can kind of use that to our advantage.
No, I would agree. That bond issue is going to be very, very interesting because I know that community way too well. It'll be interesting to see. They're in a position where they really have to, with the current state of their elementary school.
Well, I feel like we're in the same boat they are,
Well, yeah,
to some degree.
Yeah.
So it just, if you can get the community on board, you're fine.
but no, I know that's fine. And I think that will give us a good indicator of what direction to go.
That's not gonna slow down our timetable too badly.
No, I think we're okay. I would say that if we come in a November meeting and we know kind of how this went and are able to say, okay, it went well in the
Is
process.
November meetings, that
It
would be,
should be after the election.
Yeah.
is
Now,
the first on a Tuesday,
Elections on the 7th.
on the 7th, but that's a Tuesday.
Our
No,
board
We
would
won't
be
meet
after
till the
that.
next month.
We won't meet till.
Okay,
The next
Okay.
Monday. So we should know.
Okay.
But I think if come November, we decide, if you as a board decide that, yes, it's time to move forward and make the next step, I think that gives me enough time to.
At what point in
Things
time would
done.
you pick how many things and what number we want to go for? Are we not there yet?
We're not there yet. So.
Because then you'll, so when you bring somebody in, then do they give us more accurate numbers on this
Yes.
list?
Yeah, so we would take this list, we'd have a community committee. We'd show them that, the committee may say, well, no, as a group, and what's key about that is you put some people on there, don't want to pay more taxes. Feel that our buildings are exactly what we need, we don't need anything more than that, and then you show them the reality of what's going on. And you get some real feedback on, yes, leave this on, no, take this off, or no, you need to do this too. And then that you want that committee to represent your community as a whole. Then you take that list, you hire your architects and you say, this is where we start. And then they give you drawings, they give you dollar amounts on how things are gonna be and everything like that. And then they present that to you as here's your project, this is what you asked us to do. And it's $20 million. And we go, yeah, no, that's not gonna work. So we need to cut this, and this off. Now, what is it? And we work it down to where we feel this is what we can present to the community. And then we write the questions for the ballot, and we go out there and we knock doors. And that's the biggest thing. My experience upon issues, you have to be willing probably for the 2 months prior to the election to go out and be honest with people, talk to people, give them as much information as you can, meet them face to face, have community meetings and do all those types of things. If we are over 14% of assessed valuation, then it has to be approved by the state board, which isn't a problem. It just, I would say we need to have our final project to the State Board of Education, probably for their May board meeting. And that gives them May and June to prove it, and then gives us July, August, September, October put things together with a lot of work, September, October, going into an election.
Little things again. You got a dust collector wood shop, $20,000. Wouldn't that be something more appropriate for tiny house profits to cover?
We can look at some of those type of things, and that's something that, it's not a big project, it's one of those that I know needs to be fixed, and we may be able to fix the one we have, but I've got to find someone that'll come out and take a look at that motor. I'm waiting for a couple bearings to go out. We like wood dust on fire.
Okay, is there any more conversation needed for this subject? Okay, 7.2 softball cooperative.
Last Monday night at the Washington County School Board meeting, they approved this agreement with softball with us, as I presented to you last month. Some changes I did illustrate on this agreement that's different from the one you looked at last month is in, okay, it's highlighted there, and you asked about activity fee. Our students pay $15 a piece, and I put that in there. Washington County will pay USD 303, and student activity fees for number of athletes they have, $15. And then also I put in there a stipulation under letter P, payment of officials will be split. Mr. Fawcett, they passed it last Monday. They meet on the first Monday of the month. Typically, they pass, so I want to ask for make the motion in second. Pass this agreement as is, then Mr. Fawcett and I will get with Keisha to the appropriate application for a spring cooperative agreement with Washington County for softball.
I make a motion to approve the cooperative agreement for softball as presented.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, moving on to 8.1 superintendent evaluation.
I believe you've got the evaluation in front of you, so however you want to set up to have it done.
If you guys can take those home, fill them out, I'd like them back. It's off to, so before the November meeting, either get a hold of me, leave them here with Susie, mail them to me, I don't care.
Drop them off at your office.
Yep, make your coffee while you're there.
You want this before the November?
Before,
November 9th.
yeah, and what I'd like to do, if they're all done, I can kind of roll stuff up, make sure we're not missing anything. And after that meeting, then I can roll it up, present it to him, then we'll have a discussion with him come December. Does anybody have any? Can you make sure Joby gets hers? And if you lose it, forget it. I can send out reminders if need be. Principals evaluation.
I do it, but I also give you guys the opportunity, if there's anything good, bad, or ugly that you'd like me to put in Tom's evaluation, please let me know. And I will start working on it.
Okay. 8.3, approved sixth grade basketball participation.
Basketball coaches have asked that sixth grade get to participate in junior high basketball. Right now, we're probably looking at 13 girls and 8 boys in sixth grade. That would give us a total of 26 girls and 22 boys to participate in junior high basketball this year. This would put us probably where we play C-team basketball when that is available to us. And that also goes along with 8.5 letter C. Mr. Clauston would recommend that if we do this, that we also hire him. It would be a little bit different situation for him. We've talked to him a little bit, but have him help with both. It's a lot easier for him to help with late practices. So the week the boys are late, he practice with the boys, the week the girls are late, practice with the girls type of setup to help facilitate those larger numbers.
What did you say the numbers are? Just the sixth graders?
Just sixth grade, I project 13 of the girls will go out and 8 of the boys will go out.
I know Kara did meet with the girls last Thursday, they had their 5-week. And I think there's 25 total girls, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in the gym. They're in the auditorium where they met. Boys haven't met yet. Monty was thinking 17 to 18, but if there's more boys than what he's
So when-
thinking, maybe it's more than that.
When I went through, Monty thought 17. When I went through the list, I think there's probably 22 boys that could possibly go out. And Kara did send numbers. I think she had 25. I think I may have added a girl that maybe wasn't at that meeting, or I think would probably end up going out if once she sees that all of her other friends are out. So I'm thinking you're going to have a total of 26 girls and 22 boys. Without sixth grade, you've got 13 girls and 14 boys.
A situation where we needed to have those numbers. Last handful of years was really 2 small classes back to back. I think the benefits of having them participate from the skill standpoint has been further along as a 7th grader. There won't be a numbers crunch on the girls' side this year, which is, I mean, seriously, 2 years ago, we literally have 7. We couldn't even play a B team. And that was their fall 7 were. Nobody was ill, we had 7. Last year we had played lots of 6th graders on the A team, which wasn't good. We ended up withdrawing from the A team tournament, if you remember, just because of the maturity difference between 6th grader and 8th grader. And I'll say this, our junior high girls. I know many junior high volleyball games I've watched this year. I'm sitting there and I'm like, why are our girls not growing like these other girls? Look at our water. We got something there.
Why, I'll speak to that, Tom, just what my opinion is on it, because I have had some complaints from parents, and particularly 7th grade parents, about volleyball. Because, and I don't fault the coaches for how they've managed it at all. Emily did say in that meeting that we had with them that it's really too many for 2 coaches to manage to be able to make progress with them, she feels. I really think that 7th grade class we've done wrong, because we put them in a position last year that they never should have been put in. Making them, having them go out as 6th graders and play 18. I don't think they made progress last year because of that, because they're playing girls far above what their skill level was, what their maturity was, what their height was. And then we put them, and then this year there's all of those 6th graders, which is a very big group, and really probably enough 7th and 8th graders that we didn't need the 6th graders. And so those 7th grade girls have not had the opportunity to make progress this year, because there's that whole big group of 6th graders that the coaches have had to work with. And so I just point that out, that it is something that I've had complaints about, particularly from 7th grade parents, that feel in probably those 7th graders that are playing 18 this year, like if you were going to match them against other schools skill level, they should be playing B team, and they're not, because there's all those 6th graders that are playing B team. So just some things to consider. I don't know if it's one of those things where we could limit the 6th graders to only playing C team games, and if the opposing school doesn't have a C team game, then they don't suit up that night. I don't know if that would be something to consider.
I think we can do that. And Kara asked in the communication she had with Tom and I about 6th graders playing 18 and those type of things. And I told her it's an unwritten rule that they don't. And I think last year was a unique situation where we didn't have enough 7th and 8th graders, period, to where 6th graders had to. And it was a unique situation. I would agree. It's a very fine line. It really comes down to what your ultimate goals are, because we're talking about kids missing school and those type of things, or missing instruction. you can deal with that a little bit differently in, once you hit the 7th and 8th grade and high school level. Compared to being a 6th grade classroom.
And that's something that Emily pointed out last year at some of those meetings, the subcommittee meetings that we had, is that it presented challenges for her. And, especially as she got to the end of the year and she had not covered a lot of the stuff that she had hoped to cover, because she had kids pulled out of her classroom so often.
Coach K?
I've thought on this issue a little bit, especially from the boys' perspective. I can say a lot of our success has been including the 6th grade in our practices because they've gotten way more than, not to bring down the rec, but more development time with, as far as skill wise. I will say though, in terms of a 6th grader going on an away basketball game twice a week, maybe, I say that's out, like, from a coaching standpoint, they don't need to be doing that. They could just play home basketball games and then the one BQ tournament.
And I think that seeing it as a parent a few years recently with a 6th grader, there is a big difference. I think especially with girls, maybe boys don't make that maturity quite that fast, that growth, but a 6th grader versus a 7th grader, especially where we play away games on Monday night. By the end of the basketball season, my 6th graders were very difficult to live with. I think there's probably a lot of other parents that would tell you the same thing. And I think if our goal is, sports are fun. I love sports. But if our goal is education, then probably we're not doing them any favors by pulling them out of the classroom as often as we do, keeping them out of town as late as we do. I think you do that on a Monday night with junior high kids, but especially with 6th graders, and you set yourself up for failure the rest of the week. And I've seen that firsthand, having 6th graders participate in sports the last few years. It would be my preference when my next one is a 6th grader that she doesn't even have that opportunity, so I don't have to deal with it.
Well, is there a way we can foster this? Because we've got enough boys and girls to field teams, correct? To where have the 6th graders just play in the C side of it. Now, granted, do we have away C games?
Well, it'll really come down to what schools have enough kids.
Right.
And we may be able to, Mark might be able to reach out and find some schools that we could set up some Saturday C tournaments or something like that, so they get some chances to play. But as a board, you guys can set that however you want. If you want to say, yes, 6th grade can play, but they cannot play A team, they cannot travel on weekdays. However you want to set it up. If you want to say they can only play C team, it's kind of up to you, and that's why.
I don't know if there'll be in our league, I'm not sure there'll be a ton of C. And a lot of it's
To me, if they get
facility-wise.
one game a year is better than no games a year. So it's not like they need to travel every game, but I think the more we can expose them in our controlled environment, the better off we're going to be. It may be limited, but that's okay.
And another comment that Emily made, and this is going back to volleyball, and that subcommittee meeting we had, is that next year you will have a decent sized 8th grade class and a decent sized 6th grade class, as well as a decent size, what is the 5th grade now? And, unless you're going to give her another coach for volleyball, it makes it really challenging for her to make progress with those girls. And we could ask for clarification, assuming she coaches again next year, but what she indicated in that meeting was she is not interested in having 6th graders next year. And so, it may be one of those things where we need to draw the line. We're going to finish this year with them. And then after that, if there's not a need for numbers, then our 6th graders. will
Typically,
not
if we got plenty of numbers, there's not even needed for this.
Right.
If there's not a need, what'd you say, 13 and 14?
What I've ever seen at the girls' meeting the other day was 3 8th grade girls. That was at one square now, crashes that produces some knee injuries going to be about. Not gonna get over with or not. I think there was around 8 7th grade girls there. 6th grade girls. That's like call. Eight, maybe it might have been 10, 7th grade, I should have counted better.
Well, I don't think sixth graders need to play on any A level team. Game,
I
I should
just,
say.
we may need some 6th graders to play B2.
Yeah,
Say that.
I mean, that, I think a couple of them, you know, Nick, I'm just speculating, could handle it, some couldn't. I think that's the coach's job, but I
3 8th
just,
grade, 10 7th grade was 10.
I just don't think it'd be appropriate to have a sixth grader play on A.
And having watched that happen last year, because it had to, it was very defeating to those girls, especially by the time they got to the end of the season, to just get demolished for every single game. That it was- they did. And that can take away the love of the game real
Yeah.
fast for young people, and I think that's unfortunate.
So you got everything you need? I can draw something up? Are you listening?
Well, you need a motion tonight because they'll start practice. in
Okay,
2
so
weeks.
what do we want? Sixth grade can play. No A team. Try to find a C weekend tournament, no travel. What about
that-
the team we're going to
Are
that
you
does
doing
have a C?
absolutely no travel during?
No.
the
I don't know,
week?
I don't know that you can do the, no travel with that short of numbers at the top. So,
Or
I do
limit
understand what-
one travel day a week.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
mean-
That would-
open for it.
Okay.
That would be better, because if you get a couple kids hurt, then, and we say no travel, then we won't be able to play both games.
And I'll also throw in there too, adjustments get made on game days, and maybe we just play 2 quarters of B team and a full A game. I mean, you can make those adjustments if you say they don't travel. If you say they travel when there is a C game available, you know, we could do that.
Well, I think we leave it to one game a week, then we can determine which game that they can travel to.
Well, I'm thinking like if you're having, what, 20 some girls try out? Is that what you're thinking? 20?
Well, I'm thinking there's 26
And how
total
many
girls that
boys?
would probably go out and 22 boys.
22. See, those are like big groups. And if the sixth graders don't have a chance to play on away games, then
Would it-
So if you had
Why are they
13, will you have a
going?
C team?
would it- And that's what I wonder, is if it would be more beneficial with the numbers that we have for those sixth graders to be playing rec ball rather than being incredibly limited playing. Because there is such a rec ball schedule that they get a lot of games, that maybe it would be more beneficial for the sixth graders to be playing rec ball this year rather than, and I don't know, that's maybe a question for coaches. I don't know. I know you need a decision tonight.
Well, and what I would tell you is it's all about practice time. You know, Rec's not gonna practice every night. You know, the benefit, the true
Right, but
benefit
with
is that,
almost 30 girls, there's gonna be a lot of them standing,
Yep.
and then you have discipline issues because they're bouncing the ball whenever you're trying to
Yep.
teach. And I think that just goes against the whole idea that we're trying to teach these kids some skills, and you just put challenges in the way for coaches whenever they have kids there that they don't actually need there, and they're standing against the wall most of the night. What does that accomplish? And especially where you do the later practices. I mean, why does a sixth grader need to be there, need to show up at 5 o'clock for practice if mostly what they're gonna do is stand against the wall?
Coach K.
I think it also depends on the coach and how they're scheduling the practices, for one. And then two, in terms of skills development, I can hands down put what we're doing is much better, because it's not just, hey, let's one practice a week and then let's go play against the zone and then that's it. Well, they're not learning anything of the skills necessary to succeed against competitively against other teams. I'll just say that. Just coming from where I started and where our team is now, I think it's been very well. Like I would say, our success has been due to us having started with the sixth grade.
And I think too, the coaches that you have in place,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's been a drastic difference between what the boys have had in place for coaching staff versus what the girls have had in place. And they've had coaches in and out and different ones every year in that kind of situation. And I don't think that produces growth either.
I will tell you, if sixth grade doesn't play, you probably lose your assistant girls basketball coach for this year.
And
Now,
that's why
that
I
doesn't mean we
say,
can't find somebody else.
that's why
but
I say, if you're gonna, if this is something we need to remove sixth graders from, finish this year and then draw the line after this year, that next year, and I don't know what the boys' numbers are.
Boys and girls, the next year should be good. I mean, because there's good numbers in both of those classes.
How many weeks do they have? 2 away games. That's not normal, right?
What's that?
How many weeks do they have 2 away games?
About 5.
There's only one, just looking through the schedule quickly, there's only one week where there's 2 away games the same week.
Oh, really?
January.
There's not that many. It's
Oh,
usually
wait,
one,
I
and
forget
then
that we have home games.
And
too.
that's in every other year. 'Cause
Most of
last
it's.
year, it seemed like
Most
there
of
were
it's
quite a
kind of back
few
and
that we
forth,
had.
home and away, home. I mean, there's 1 week in January. If it's not, they're both away.
And they leave. How early would a junior high team leave for a ball game?
Setting where we're playing at, if it's starting in 1 June, if you're trying to get C team, then you're starting pretty early. Like we can't. I mean,
yeah, and
we-
Very
we-
rarely
we
would they
play
leave
in 2
before-
Gyms, we're gonna have to hire 2 sets of officials.
I mean, like our
That's
games
why.
start at 3:30 or so, especially if
Which
there's
is probably
two.
what we need to do.
So they leave after, they'd eat lunch and then
Yeah.
leave most likely,
Yeah,
never,
which
never
means
before
you're
that.
losing the
Half a
entire
day school.
afternoon of instruction.
and the next day. Right, isn't that what she told you guys in your, she lost her kids the whole next day? 'Cause they couldn't
No,
come.
she talked
I
about
don't know
going
that. I
track
remember just
season,
Oh, okay.
whatever. They were
Dropping
gone the whole
the
day.
numbers so much where they couldn't,
Okay.
whoever was left couldn't do anything
Couldn't do anything.
if they didn't go after the
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah, that was one of the things she talked about, was when she only had 2 left in her classroom. She
We-
wasn't
we
doing
don't
anything with them
speak
either.
to them, so it's not like- Well, they're not either, it's their kids. I thought we used to be teams. We was the 18 tournament.
I think it's okay for them to play this year. I mean, if we need to talk about the other regulations, maybe we can talk about that next meeting, but I would say that I'm okay with them personally playing.
There's only 2 weeks this year right now that they play 2 games in a week.
2 away games or 2
No,
games?
2 games in a week.
Oh, okay.
So every other week they just play the ones. They either play Monday or they play Thursday. I think there might be a Tuesday in there, but just looking through it real quick, it looks like they just play once a week.
We're gonna go
Except for a couple weeks.
Tuesday.
Basically the 2 weeks before Christmas break. So
Thursday.
they play December 4th, Monday, then they play Thursday, and then they turn around and play Monday, and they play Thursday, and then they play that Tuesday before, or that, no, they don't play the week of Christmas or that last week. So those 2 full weeks before we go into Christmas break are the only 2 weeks they actually have 2 games that week. All the rest of them are just 1 game a week.
I'd make a motion to allow 6th grade to play.
Second.
Having a motion and a second to let the 6th graders participate in basketball. All in favor? All opposed.
Sorry. What is it that
And that's no restrictions. We're just letting it happen this year, and that was the motion, right?
Correct.
Since they're not having 2 away.
Yeah.
Or 2, yeah.
I
Because I
think
think a few years ago, wasn't it every week was 2
I think it's
games? and
better
it
for
was-
practice and have the rec ball. Rec ball's just running around, just playing, and they're not
And they're
learning.
not learning.
They're not learning. At least they learn some skills.
Okay, moving on. 8.4 executive session for personnel
Yes. I don't really care either way.
for 20
Where
minutes.
was your vote?
Second.
All in favor?
you can go out this way. Once a week. Oh, you can go out this door and go in the storeroom and go out the front door like normal. Yeah, because they have both those doors shut there. So yeah. Or you can go out the west door if you'd rather go that way, but you can go through the storeroom here. And then out. So you don't have to go that way.
your shoes untied, don't trip yourself.
Probably got a chance to tie it.
There's four of us.
Motion to go back into executive session for 15 minutes.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed. Mr. Sexton, can you come in here with us, please? Sir. Looking out for your safety. Okay, we'll motor on here. Go down to 8.5. Approve Terry Beitler as a substitute teacher. Approve custodial contact Susan Steinberg. And did we approve C already, the Troy Clouston?
We haven't yet.
Okay,
We have
we
not.
talked about, it. Okay.
Move to approve those 3 hires.
Second,
All in favor? All opposed. 8.6, approve patron access to Wendy Haas. Is that for the
Jim and Whitman.
gym and weight room?
so, go ahead.
All in favor? 8.7, approved out a state trip for the FFA National Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? 8.8, executive session for student personnel.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, excluding
I will
Lori.
recuse myself from this.
10 minutes,
Move.
Oh,
Oh.
second.
all in favor? Thank you.
You can include it there.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes. What's the whole month? She's what's going.
With phones,
The phones.
yeah, they wouldn't be in there right now if we weren't. Yeah, the answer to that is absolutely, got it out.
I didn't, I mean, meant like in the classrooms.
Yeah.
I,
100% yes.
that was a dumb question.
Like probably worse than any of us probably can imagine, would be my guess. My thing with that though is like, when is it, when do parents recognize the issue that it is? That's my question with it. Not today, I don't think, but probably not ever.
What goes on your senior pad?
So the kids building it
The
actually?
chicken coop goes on it? Is that
16
the
by
chicken
20.
coop? Oh, wow.
So this is 7 by, that would be a livestock area. So through the back there. So will it be 97? Yes.
And so, like, the chicken coop is right here. Is there two on the backside?
Yep, so
Okay.
there's 2 on this side, and then this is all full for livestock area.
Okay. Very cool. And that's all cemented or just where the chicken coop is?
Yep, so it's a 20 foot by 20 foot pad outside. This
Okay.
is a 16 by 20 foot. So
Okay.
everybody look at it.
Cool.
It's like, oh, there.
I saw the little block, like your. Oh, okay. And then when it said,
It'll sit more this way.
okay,
For the not being
Yeah.
water straight on. the
very nice. I saw your little plot that you had filled out. Is that where you're planting your lavender?
Wheat.
Your
Wheat's in
Okay.
there right now.
Okay.
Dakota Weeks is working on that. And then lavender will be to the side of it. So which that's probably a smaller scale, but like with 4-H, there's like that wheat plot thing that they can do. And it's through the state, I think. I'm not sure about Kansas 4-H. I'm not from Kansas. I'll have to look that up because I don't even think it's a 4-H thing. I mean, it's offered to 4-Hers, but I wonder if it's anything that you would have a chance to do. Because I'm not too sure that it applied it or provide the seaweed and stuff. Okay. I'll have to look into that and see. Yeah. I know Dakota provided its own meat. Yeah. So I know we want to do more in the future than just that small lot. Well, and they like the thing through that the 4-Hers can do. Which I don't think it's through Kansas 4-H. I think it's through something else. But they bring, it could be, they bring like those tiny little miniature combines to like harvest it and like process all like the yield data and all of that stuff for it. I'll have to see if that is a 4-H thing or if it would be maybe open to you guys too. I don't know, some of my kids want to build a mini grid. A what? A mini grid. That would be kind of fun.
So this might be a dumb question, but how does he plant, like, drill the wheat in such a small area? Does he just?
Did he like hand sew it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He handed it. And now he goes out there and checks it every day. So I'm sure he does.
Give it 10 days.
It's his project. He's enjoyed it. Will he be able to do that for like the agri-science thing or anything? Yeah, if you'd like to. I'm hoping to have more kids than that this year. Yeah, I thought that was really cool last year. Yeah.
And do you have anything going on in the greenhouse right now?
No, not anything going on right now. No. Have they done any work to it?
I don't think so.
No, but the grant, the Patterson grant,
Yeah.
they are doing,
Yeah.
getting upgrades and stuff.
Part of that
So-
Patterson grant.
Right.
Include the greenhouse.
So once that's up, I'll be able to get in there, more in there. Hopefully we'll have a couple of specimens.
Start soon. It'll be good. It'll be fun. It's a fun harvest process, so.
Yeah. I know Emma thought it was really interesting when you guys went down there to Oklahoma last spring.
It's something different.
Yeah.
We'll see where we hang it up. That's gonna be the fun part. We'll see.
And they're all around your classroom, so they're all soothing and hanging out throughout the
calm-
school,
the calming room.
calming
Take
effect.
it to the kindergarten classroom and take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it'll be good. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I'm excited. We should. I don't know how many chickens we're gonna do this year. Or meat chickens. I know we did 26 last year. That was not the goal. That we were supposed to only have 15, but this one has so many extra.
Yeah.
It's bad. But I think we'll do 20 this year because we're hosting a poultry contest. So we'll have those birds. And we'll probably feed them turkey feed this year to make them gain a little quicker. But for contest time.
So when is that conference?
April. I want to say 9. It's our last contest. And we're the first one. Oh, I want to host it. So I'm the first one to host in like 6 or 7 years in this district. So
I don't know that they ever had one where I was in it, but that.
yeah, it's usually the K-State people. They don't like to travel this far.
Yeah.
It's all good. I don't like raising birds and doing that. So that new chicken plucker, we made plucking them quicker from Fairfield. Like way quicker.
Wow.
So we just have to alter it a little bit with the heat and water because it made the skin tear a little bit. So it'll be good.
So you pump hot water into it and turn it on and that's.
And does it have those like fins that like, yeah. I've seen those before.
Made the process a lot quicker than chicken plucking.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as the one that did the chicken plucking and cleaning it, made it pretty quick. However, the need to get the conditions right to where it doesn't like tear.
Yeah.
Like, is it, you can.
This is the only plucker I've ever done.
Well, you'll be impressed the next time we're doing it.
And it's a pretty simple setup. isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah, it's simple. I'm just like, how the heck did I?
Yeah, it's like a sour candy, you remember when you had?
Want to slide in there?
Don't hit my pockets. Go for it, Tom.
Another 10 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah, I think it has to do more with like the initial bath coating that you put on it before you put it in there. Because the only thing that changes on it is literally just hook up the hose that it twirls on you, so it's really.
Isn't it just like a big washing machine?
Yeah, it's a washing machine, that's all it is. And I could definitely see where somebody redneck did it. And then they're like, you know what, this idea is great, let's get a patent out there for this, because there is nothing complex about it.
We'll be fair chickens again.
It's a long time of year.
It's bad. Yeah. Let's see. Hoping to get some model babies. Model baby plants in January.
Even pigs, we did pigs whenever I was in it, the pigs, it's a pretty short feeding window, relatively easy. Yeah, and then we'd go watch them slaughter up here in Southport.
See, I'm more thinking about my fruits. I like sheep.
Yeah.
I like them. But it's also, I've known lamb that showed lambs that just pigs, I know, but not as. It'd be more fun to show a lamb than a pig, but. also-
Pigs are easy.
We also showed him whites in California, so. It's a little bit. It'd be easier. You also showed him whites in California, so. Yeah, that curious. And the other
What did you say?
whites, so we had to wear white pants, white shirt.
yeah.
Yeah, and when you have an animal like a pig.
Did you wear the little green hat things?
Super a lot. To the other animals.
Was Taylor starting to count down yet?
I think so. If not, the doctor is.
Is she at weekly appointments yet?
Starting this week. I think she's done being pregnant. I got that. My mom's anxiously waiting to see which one of her granddaughters has her babies first, because my nephew's wife is pregnant and they're due within a week of each other, so
Do they know where they're having?
they're having a boy. So, but mom's got one girl this year and a boy this year, so 2 boys, so we'll see if she ends up with 3 boys or 2 of each.
I still think Taylor's available.
That's my gut feeling, but she's evolution plan. Not so sure she's gonna make it to state cross country this year. About a month ago, she asked me, "Do you think I could still go?" I said, "Well, yeah, if you feel good and nothing's wrong with it. Go with me just in case." I said, "Yeah, and we can try somewhere. No big deal." Well, she canceled going on to regionals cross country, and then the last cross country she left right after her kids were done. So I'm guessing she probably won't go to state. So
I really want to cause her. Is she still just coaching junior high or is she? looking
yeah,
at high
just
school too?
junior high. But they coach together, I guess, but she's still just a junior high coach. So she doesn't have to go, but
Right. guess I could have just went home, it's just adjourned. Call it another one.
Would you have to pick up Travis for today? Bring the truck in?
Yeah. I would truck this one. Yeah. I was gonna write back with it.
Maybe tomorrow morning?
I think he's gonna come in. Holidays, his commissioner tomorrow. So Emma can ride the bus in the morning and he'll bring a pickup and leave it for her in the easy pickup. Because it's not really at the library. Yeah. So he'll leave it for them.
Okay, I think we're done with that.
Second?
All in favor? All right, thank you.